Hello folks, welcome back to the channel. Today's video is inspired by a thread that I saw posted onto the Classic WoW subreddit, where someone was asking people's opinions on a non-hardcore raiding guild, basically, a casual raiding guild that was open to people of all classes, but more specifically of all specs. Because as we that know anything about Classic are, more than well enough aware, classes in vanilla aren't balanced in the way that they are in later versions of the game. You have about one viable spec, and I know before you start shouting at me in the comments section, yes, I know you can play Rep Paladin, I know you can play all sorts of Druid specs, I'm very well aware of that, but if we're being honest, the optimum specs, and optimum therefore equals the specs that people are really going to be asking you to play, there's not that many of them. If you're lucky, your class has got two viably optimum specs. Warriors are pretty comfortable in that regard, mages depending on the patch, that kind of thing, but a lot of classes have really only got one viable option for raiding in most guilds, and that's the point of this video. Because this guy on the subreddit was saying, I really want to raid as a Rep Paladin, or as a Boomkin, for example. Classes that are traditionally not very well welcomed in a guild setting, and I think there's a really good reason for that. On the internet, especially, as in many places, but especially in the age of the internet, people are trapped into their own little communities. They've got filter bubbles. Everyone has basically an echo chamber that they're locked into. And I think Classic WoW suffers from this as well. Because we're super into the game, right? We're massive nerds, we've crunched all the numbers. In fact, I've not really crunched all the numbers, but someone else has crunched the numbers for me, and I know, I can find pretty easily what the best build for my rogue might be. Classic is a known entity at this point. There's not really any theory crafting left to do, unless you're a Druid player, which there's some interesting stuff going on with Druids right now. But my point being, the community that exists around Classic right now is very slanted in one direction. It's all the hardcore people, obviously. The people that are the people that are spending all day talking about Classic WoW on a subreddit for a game that is barely even announced. They just said, oh yeah, we're gonna do it soon, TM, soon, maybe within the next 3 years, but actually we're not gonna give you any news for like 7 months, and definitely no sign of a release date. So those of us that are really heavily engaged in the community and posting all the time, we're likely to be the hardcore types. The people that are really going to get heavily invested in the game, go all out, get everything optimized, do the min-max builds. That's us. It's not really me. I'm definitely a filthy casual, but I like getting involved in the discussions anyway. I am actually more along the lines of wanting to be in a guild where people are allowed to roll as an enhancement shaman, or as a feral druid, though they can be very good if played right, and a boomkin maybe, shadow priest before the debuff slots increase, that kind of thing, because I'm not playing WoW to kill Kel'Thuzad. I really don't care. I mean, I'm going to be doing a video on that later soon as well. The rarity of certain achievements making everything else valuable. I think that's important. I know that I'm not a very intense hardcore player, I just like playing the game as an escapist thing, as a role-playing thing. And so I don't really mind if we don't get to the end of the raid, it doesn't bother me. So I am definitely all for having a guild where there's a relaxed system of gearing. It's not that we want to have 20 people not turn up for a raid on time. I don't want casual in that sense. I want people to be committed to a guild. I want there to be a hardcore vibe in that everyone's, turning up, they've done their preparation, they've got their consumables, they know their tactics, that sort of thing. But I don't want to penalize people by saying, oh, you need this particular talent build, don't put any points anywhere else, you need this particular itemization. No. I understand if you want to do world first races and stuff like that, if you want to be super the hardcore of the hardcore, fine, fair enough. But I don't see the point of racing nowadays. There's nothing new. We know what's going to happen. We know what the encounters are like. It's not like you're going to be doing any world firsts, because, hate to break it to you, but the world firsts were done 12 years ago at this point. You're a bit late to the party. So my point is that I think there's going to be a very significant change in the vanilla community when Classic goes live, and continuing up until that point. So in BlizzCon, when they give us a release date, which they really better had to, because if we don't get any Classic news in BlizzCon, there's going to be riots in the street, But when we do get a release date, when we get closer to the release of Classic, there's going to be more and more people that are what I'd call the traditional vanilla players. You know, they're not necessarily hardcore enough to be involved in the Reddit communities or the forums or the Discords, but they'll be playing, and they'll be the majority of players. I think Tips Out was talking about this recently as well, that, you know, we've got a big community so far, but it's nothing like what's going to be when it's live. There's going to be so many people that come back to the game when they realise, oh shit, Vanilla WoW's back, I had no idea, because they don't necessarily listen to every BlizzCon announcement. They're not necessarily watching every YouTuber. They're just, you know, doing their job, and then suddenly they hear from a co-worker, oh shit, Vanilla WoW's back. Well, it looks like I'm not doing overtime for a while, and they come back to the game, but they're not going to necessarily be the hardcore type, you know? The majority of players back then weren't killing Kel'Thuzad, they weren't min-maxing, and I think the same's going to be true when Classic launches properly. I think our community is going to get a really big shift towards people that want to just raid for fun. You know, it's like Agatha from the Elite Four in Pokemon. Play with your favourites. It's all very well picking the most, you know, powerful team of Pokemon, but unless you like playing them, there's really no point. So, I am officially putting myself forward as an advocate for casual, hardcore guilds. Guilds that allow flavorful specs, shall we say? Specs that aren't necessarily the most numerically perfect, but do have, you know, dedication. If you're going to play Ret Paladin, you gotta try. You gotta try really damn hard. You gotta be farming a lot of consumables, that sort of thing. If you want to do a Feral Druid DPS or a Druid tank, you've got to do the same thing. You've got to make sure you optimize yourself because you're at a disadvantage. But that disadvantage shouldn't disqualify you from playing, you know? There's many shit players that play Warrior and do pretty poor DPS that would actually get out DPS'd by a Ret Paladin that really knows his stuff and means business and is dedicated. So I think we should start, you know, pushing for a little bit more of a community that's accepting of builds that are more centered around fun, you know? It's fun having the big numbers, don't get me wrong. But if you want to play your Moonkin, if you think you can make that viable, then who am I to stop you? As long as we get the raid done, and with 40 people, there's people that are killing raid bosses in vanilla with, you know, 20-man groups of well-geared, really dedicated folks. So if you've got a core in your team of good people that are playing legit builds, you've got the rest of your raid, half of your raid, that is open to playing more atypical builds, shall we say, more unoptimized builds. Which, not necessarily the best thing in the world, but it's probably where I'll find myself because I'm a filthy casual. I'll admit it. I want to play Druid. I want to play Shaman. Heck, I want to even play Shaman DPS because as much as I love healing, I might give it a try every now and then, and I don't want to be in a guild that disqualifies me from raiding purely because I play a spec that isn't optimized. And because we're all about no changes, then we'll not get any of these balance updates. So we won't see any Boomkins. You know, we will see very few Rets in the current community, but actually I think when everyone else, when the wider Classic community comes back, we'll have a very different change of the conversation. People will be far less, you know, quick to say, oh actually you can't do that exact talent build because we crunched the numbers. People aren't going to know. It's going to be like in vanilla when it was live, you know? Most people aren't going to be reading forums all day long and finding out the numerically perfect spec. Most people aren't going to care about that, because that's not what Classic is about. It truly is an MMORPG. That's what it's about. The current version of the game isn't really an RPG anymore, let's be honest, but in vanilla, I don't even know if I'm going to raid at endgame. Honestly, in Nostalrius, when I got to the level cap, I felt like I was done. I was just purely enjoying playing WoW for the leveling process because it felt like an RPG. I felt like my character, you know, I was playing that role, I was getting stronger, I was going through the quests and reading them all. It was a great, fun time. That was as rewarding, if not more, than any of the endgame material you could possibly find. So I think there's going to be a lot of people that are like me that don't necessarily care that they're playing with a bunch of people with gimped specs and poor DPS. I'm probably never going to see the inside of Naxxramas. I'm definitely not going to see the inside of Kel'Thuzad's room, and I'm okay with that. You know, I don't mind raiding Molten Core and Blackwing Lair for the whole of Classic. I say that now, I might take that back, but I'd rather raid it with people that are welcoming and comfortable rather than people that are going to tell you off for playing the wrong build. Do you know what I mean? Anyway, that's just something I wanted to get off my chest and put into the community discussion. See you all in the comments section, see you in the subreddit. I'm looking forward to hearing what you say, and please come and join me on my Discord, which is linked below, and follow me on Twitch for when I do live streams. The first stream went really well. Thanks for those of you that helped me fix out my audio problems. I'm really looking forward to doing another stream soon. Should probably be, my plan is to start streaming about morning British time, I think is what I'm going to start doing. So follow me on Twitch so you know when the live stream goes live, and I'll see you there in the Discord and all of that. Subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video. Stay chim, everyone. And it's okay to play a druid, honestly, they're not that bad. Look at the PvP videos, they're actually pretty strong now. You just have to know how to play them. Anyway, stay chim, and I'll see you next time. Bye bye.